स्टार्टअप्स का ये कल्चर देश के दूर दराज तक पहुंचे, इसके लिए 16 जनवरी को अब नेशनल स्टार्टअप डे के रूप में मनाने का फैसला भी किया गया है।
A resilient nation is only built when billions of dreams across every corner of the nation are nurtured. When every idea and aspiration gets wings to fly. When everyone plays a role in building one of the most promising economies of the world. Startup India was founded 7 years back in 2016 by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and propel it towards becoming one of the largest innovation ecosystem in the world. Today, India is one of the fastest growing startup ecosystems in the world. We are adding highest number of startups every day in the world. From 8 unicorns in 2016 to 108 unicorns today, we have emerged as the world's third largest unicorn nation. All of this has been possible through the impact of over 54 regulatory reforms that Startup India has brought about since 2016 to increase the ease of doing business, ease of raising investments and reduce compliance burden.
When government takes a responsibility of something, it takes proper care that it reaches every nook and corner of the country. So Startup India has been playing and will be playing a major role in the growth story of our country. And very soon, India will not only be seen as the largest consumer market, but also as the largest producer market of the world.
From 4 state policies in 2016, today we have 31 states and UTs with dedicated startup policies, spreading the reach of entrepreneurship to 663 districts.
I believe it's a great success for Startup India mission, and we have seen like people coming from different background and financial situation. All these schemes made the dream get closer to the reality, and it's been a great journey with Startup India.
We have grown immensely from 446 to 87,000 plus DPIIT recognized startups across 56 industries, employing over 8.48 lakh people.
Last 7 years have seen an exponential growth in the number of startups and in the different kind of startups that are coming out in India. This is all possible due to the last 7 years journey of Startup India thinking about policies in a wholesome manner.
Various initiatives by Startup India have enabled this momentous growth, including National Startup Awards, States Startup Ranking Framework, Seed Fund Scheme and the Government E-Marketplace or GEM.
Startup India has actually created a very good systems and processes for adoption of such technologies into government ecosystem. That's really helped us tremendously. And the platforms like GEM, the government e-marketplace, they have specific areas where startups can sell their product to government ecosystems.
This incredible journey spanning over 7 years has transformed India through its zeal for entrepreneurship and innovation. This is only the beginning of our journey to a more innovative and inclusive idea. A nation of not just job seekers, but also job creators. Start innovations. Start dreams. Start aspirations. Start hope. Start opportunities. Start possibilities. Start the future. Startup India.
And with this, we officially kickstart our Startup India Innovation Week. And this time, we will be celebrating the Startup India Day, which is on the 16th of January across the country for over the next 7 days. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Surya Gupta from Startup India team, and we have been very closely working with education and academia sector to support student and young entrepreneurs. Education is the driving force behind every country's economy, directly or indirectly. Many colleges have adapted to modernization and they have started making students learn in peer groups, solve problems, integrate science with arts. Entrepreneurial skills not only help students to identify business opportunities, but also gives them an opportunity to think creatively and innovatively. With this background, I would like to introduce everyone to our esteemed panelists for tonight's webinar that have been working relentlessly to empower student entrepreneurs in the country to become the world's most influential change makers and solve the most pressing world challenges. We have Chris Cander, Executive Director of the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Co-Director of Entrepreneurial Studies at Schulich Business School, Canada. We have Professor Nath, Angel Investor and ex-faculty at Management Development Institute, Gurgaon. Lastly, we have Professor Surya Kumar, Dean Innovation, Translation and Startups at IIT Hyderabad. A very, very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on the panel. I am very excited to hear from all of you, and before any further ado, I would like to introduce Chris Carter for his opening session. Chris is a serial entrepreneur and a sought after advisor, investor, and advisory board member with over 25 years of experience in digital and technology sector. He is an award winning adjunct professor at Schulich and is also a special advisor on entrepreneurship and innovation. Before Schulich, Chris was the president and co founder of Thin Data, Canada's largest email marketing service provider, which has now been acquired by TC Media. He's the co-creator of Together 2023, a special partnership with Startup India, and has trained and helped us support a multitude of students, approximately over 500 students in the past 3 years. Chris, we are eagerly waiting to hear from you the art of company building, as we say, and if you could highlight some secret ingredients of for the students and young entrepreneurs to take on and embark on the innovation journey. Over to you, Chris.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And first of all, just to say on behalf of the Schulich School of Business, myself, and the dean from the school, congratulations to the government of India and Startup India as we approach National Startup Day. We are so excited to share in this moment and celebrate our partnership with you as well. Speaking to all the students and recent graduates that are out there watching today, I'll be talking a little bit about our partnership in the program, but also just about some of my impressions and thoughts and lessons related to entrepreneurship and things to take away. Try to leave you with a couple stories that you can tuck away and apply later on as you go forward. We've really been so impressed with the level of students, the ideas that we're seeing through the program that we're working on together. And really, I have to say, to extend a whole congratulations to the entire education system throughout India for how fast and rapidly we see these organizations moving to adopt entrepreneurial mindset and thinking into their courses and strategies. One of the things that we've learned at Schulich and in the Canadian innovation ecosystem is that partnership between academic and between industry in fostering these young minds is just absolutely essential in the process, getting people thinking early, not only so that you have the founders, but that you have a pipeline, a rich pipeline of talent that can be applied to those businesses as well. And I think my number one lesson in all that is that these networks of bringing the non-academics and the academics together, having them work together, bringing in these founders, these investors, these entrepreneurs into the classrooms, bringing real stories of the students who have succeeded in recent years and getting them back into the classroom to speak to the next generation. So they're not just reading about the stories when the companies reach unicorn level and they're way off and they're giant, but what are they? How can they learn from those recent practical stories? So maybe just a little bit to set the stage in terms of talking about our partnership in India, we're pretty unique in that we have our own campus in Hyderabad, and our advisory board there is our chair emeritus is Mr. Ratan Tata. So it's a rich history that we have as Schulich working in the country, and in Canada, we're the #1 ranked MBA by most of the leading reviews that are out. So we have our MBA that's in India, and then we have our program with Together that we work with Startup India on. What is the Together experience? Well, really, it's fused around this idea that I said of building networks, getting people together. And the #1 lesson that I've learned as an entrepreneur in my own journey, and then investing in now 50 plus businesses, and at this point, I've probably advised close to 1,000 companies over the last 10 years, is really you got to get out of your own little world in the dark room where you're designing and you've got this idea, and you really got to get out and test it fast and connect with people and get additional perspective. And a #1 thing that I see in terms of the students that are coming into the program that we work on with you is that they have phenomenal science and technology ideas, but they're really like holding back a little bit too much on getting out there and getting the feedback and testing them with mentors, experts, with commercial opportunities, hearing what potential clients or users of the platforms are saying. So what we've tried to do is to create this vehicle to bring everyone together to do that. And so over the last couple of years, we brought together 1,000 Indian student entrepreneurs with 600 plus Schulich students from Canada, where the Schulich students get together with the students from India and look at and work on their ideas and help them as teams, volunteering, supporting them. Important to note, all the ideas are owned, controlled, kept in the hands of the Indian student entrepreneurs and for the benefit of the Indian economy. But the Schulich students show up to help them look at these things. Then we bring mentor pairs. I'll talk about that in a minute. But 200 plus mentors over the last couple of years from both countries that have come together, trainers, judges, and then awards that are available to the students. Our area of focus is on social impact, which I think is very important to both our countries and was really an attraction in terms of working together on this. And I'm really impressed with the passion that these students have from India to, make big changes in terms of how people's lives operate within the country and around the world. This concept of paired mentorship is really important because it brings together top Canadian mentors and pairs them with top Indian mentors. So the students get this like global, local perspective of both. What would it be like to bring your business to the North American economy? What is it like to look at it within the Indian economy? How do investors from both sides of the world look at what they're building? And then get hands-on time to work together with those groups at the school. And then this is maybe an idea for like some of the academic institutions or students that want to give feedback to their schools and colleges out there. We've now started to integrate classes to prepare for the program for Startup India and the Together program. So I now have a master's course where I take 55 elite students and prepare them to be guides and trainers for the Indian students as well, so that they're ready to go in and work together. The way the program works is it starts off in September and goes all the way through February. Right now, we're just a week away from we've picked our top 25 teams of the student Indian entrepreneurs. We're really excited, amazing ideas that have come forward this year. And we're taking them through the opening boot camp next week and the opening ceremonies. And then they get nearly 45 days working with those mentors and working with those Schulich teams to refine the ideas. You know what? Here's where the missing gap is that we see every year. It's storytelling. And it's understanding where the commercialization, how to take this to market, how to express it to investors, to customers, to people who would get on board. So that's where we really focus. And it's really a night and day experience when the students come in and how they're talking about the business and explaining it. We used to do it in just 1 week, as you know, and now we've expanded it to be 60 days plus of training and experiences. But even when we did it for 1 week, the leap was incredible, and it's about getting all those different people involved. We've now have like 5 different champions that have come out through the program, and some of them are doing incredible things, and credit the program with taking them to where they are today. And we're having a lot of fun continuing to support those companies. It's a real, the other thing I have to say is that we're seeing so many students come from different regions throughout India where there's like, many non-metropolitan cities that are producing really interesting entrepreneurs as well too, and a lot of female entrepreneurs as well. And I think the government of India has been really key in terms of helping us to get, dig deeper and go beyond. In Canada, we're just really getting to that idea now that we got to get out beyond the urban centers and get into more rural communities as well. So that's been really fantastic to see. I wanted to just lay that groundwork in terms of why are we here? What are we inspired by? What are we working together? But now I want to tell you two stories as the students that are out there today and really give you something, beyond what I could do in like a boot camp today to tell you like, you got to do this and this and this with your business. What's the spirit that you have to bring? And the spirit that you have to bring, and I learned this from myself. I'll tell you a story from myself and a story from one of my students. You always have to get out there and go. You have to take the risk and go out and meet people. And when the opportunity comes, you have to get out of your comfort zone, get out from the person who's on the whiteboard or on your computer or doing the code, and get out there and go and meet people. Best advice I ever got in my life when I was just emerging from university myself. I'm 51 years old now, but way back when I went to school, and one of my first business mentors told me, your job is to become, no matter what you like doing on the science and the tech, your job is to become the #1 salesperson in the history of your organization. So get out there and meet people. Here's an example just recently from my life a few years ago with one of my businesses. Well, a few years ago, but maybe 7, 8 years ago now. But I had an opportunity where at the end of a long day, I was super tired. I wanted to go home and just rest, be with my kids. But this gentleman on the left had been very good to me in my businesses, had helped fund some of our debt financing on some of our government tax credits. And I was like, I better go out. And I was like, no, I want to go home. I better go. So I decided in the end I would go out, and I took the address and I showed up, and I thought it was going to be a little bar, a little like networking event, restaurant type thing. Instead, I pulled up my car, and it was in front of this giant condo building. And I went, and it was like, why am I at a condo building? I went inside, and it turned out that this was the penthouse apartment of Reza Suleiman, one of the most accomplished entrepreneurs in the country. And it was a 14-person private dinner session, which included at the table, the gentleman in the middle, who was one of Canada's most famous astronauts, telling stories around the dinner table about what it's like to be in space. And on the right-hand side, the co-founder of one of our large telco companies, Mr. Bryce Seshek from Wind Mobile, who then unlocked incredible opportunities for me in my career as I went forward. But I almost went home that night because I was a little too tired and I wanted to just take a breath and take a breather, but instead went out. And the people around that table unlocked incredible opportunities. Now, that's an experience for me, and I'm deeper in my career, but here's an experience to talk to you about that was with two of my students. And the two students there, you can see them holding up. You might think that's a tablet, but this is actually like a piece of cardboard that they cut out to explain their idea to people, which is putting these interactive tablets in the back of Uber and rideshare vehicles to entertain people and have all kinds of interactive content. Well, when they were starting out, the biggest problem that they had was that they couldn't afford to buy enough tablets to put them in enough Uber vehicles to create enough of a statistical impact to show investors that their concept was going to work. So they were really stuck. And one weekend, I called them up and I said, hey, on the right, that's me and one of my kids. And I said, hey, I'm going to this big football game that's on. It's a big semifinal football game. I'm going to a private box. Someone gave me 2 extra tickets. Do you want to come along with me and we'll hang out? We'll just meet some people, see who we can connect with from the business community. So they said, sure. They were busy, but they canceled their plans. They came with me. They showed up to the football match. We're in the private box. And while we're there, I ran into an old friend who I knew from like 20 years ago. He asked me what I was doing. I asked him what he was doing. I said, I'm here. I'm watching the game with my kid, but I'm also here with this young startup company. And he said, oh, what do they do? I explained what they did. And I said, the biggest thing we're trying to figure out right now is how to get them enough tablets so that they can launch their company. And my old friend said, Chris, did you know that the CEO of Samsung Canada is in the box right now? I said, no. He said, do you want to meet him? I said, oh, sure, we want to meet him. He's like, do you want to pitch him for the tablets? Yes. So I ran back over to the food line, told the guys to put down all the food they were eating because they were hungry students and get ready because we're pitching in literally in 60 seconds, we're going to be in front of the CEO of Samsung Canada. And we went over, and we pitched the CEO, and the CEO gave them, not loaned them, not gave them a good price on, didn't ask for equity, didn't ask for anything in return. He wanted to test a new market. He gave them 1,000 tablets for free. And then he went and he called one of the big telco companies, Rogers here in Canada, and he got them to give all the data to run the network for free for a whole year. And now this company has since taken off and done all kinds of really interesting things. But my point to you, if you're listening today as a student, like I want you, you'll hear all the technical aspects of building companies and like, strategies around fundraising and all these things. You have to bring a mentality and an attitude, which is I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to find my way to what I need, and I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to meet people, and I'm going to go outside my comfort zones, especially sometimes as technology people or science people, we're a little bit more comfortable in the back end of what we're doing. You got to push yourself to get out there and really meet people, and magic is going to happen if you just do that and push to the next level. So that's I got my timer on. I know I went to 11 minutes, but I'm going to stop there, pass back to my colleagues, and say thanks for the opening opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chris. Always banking on you for very engaging examples, and this time also a very interesting example. So thank you for sharing your stories with us. Next up, we have Professor Dhruv Nath. We'll take questions in the end. I have been getting some interest on our social media handles. I'll park all of them for later. Professor Dhruv is an angel investor, a mentor to startups, an author, and a director with Lead Angels Network. As a part of his journey, he has invested in 15 startups and has mentored over 100 others. Earlier, he was a professor at MDI Gurgaon and a senior VP at NIIT Limited. He has been a consultant to the top management companies, Glaxo, Gillette, Nestle, to name a few, as well as he has been a consultant to the Prime Minister of Namibia and some other chief ministers of the states and UTs in India. He has written two books on startups, namely The Dream Farmer and Funding Your Own Startup and Other Nightmares, both published by Penguin Random House. Professor Dhruv, we are really looking forward to hear from you, both from the angel investor perspective and also an author perspective for the two books that you have recently written. Over to you, sir.
Sure, great. Thank you so much. So first of all, before I start, Chris, I want one of those tablets.
Let's see what we can do.
Okay. Okay. So, by the way, Surbi just mentioned that I was an advisor to the Prime Minister of Namibia. After that, he lost the elections. And I was also an advisor to the Chief Minister of Delhi. After that, she died. So you want to take my advice? It's your problem. Anyway, so let me start off. What I plan to do is the subject that we are supposed to be talking about today is today's founders, tomorrow's leaders. That's obvious, isn't it? I mean, if you're a successful founder, your company will grow big, like Chris mentioned, and you'll be tomorrow's leaders. However, there are many companies, I would say 97-98% of companies, which founders start, but they either die along the way or they just meander along. They're small companies, they never become leaders. And what I thought I'd cover today is one example of a company, a startup that I have been involved in personally, which actually became a leader. And this has happened in the space of about 4 or 5 years, right? And by the way, the two books that Surbhi mentioned are right here, The Dream Founder and Funding Your Startup. So what I'm picking up today is actually picked up from the Dream Founder. Okay, so hold on. How do I? Oops. So how do I can't seem to do animation here. Harshita, you had said that if I do a left click, it will go to the next step. It doesn't. it goes to the next slide. So my animation is gone. No help? Okay. Okay, so yeah, so you'll have to watch it without the animation, sorry. So, we have this company called Go Desi. And Go Desi is actually, some of you would have seen their products, you would have tasted their products. They're basically candies with Indian flavors, flavors like imli and or tamarind, right? Or kathal, these kinds of things, which you normally don't get. So the founder of this company is a guy called Vinay Kothari, and he's a trekker. He's based in Bangalore. He was roaming around Bangalore. In fact, he was in the rural parts of Karnataka, and he went to one little kirana shop and he tasted these candies, and he said, "My God, these are unique. They're different, and they're very healthy because there's no sugar, there's no preservative, there's no artificial coloring." So this guy said, "Hang on." This is being done, this is being processed, created by a little farmer in a little shed very close to his home. Can I convert this into a huge branded business? Right? And that is what this guy thought of, which is why I say, when I talk about the dream founder, uh, you have to dream big. That is step one. Very, very important. Not only do you have to dream big, the market size has to be big. Otherwise, there's no point in dreaming. You create a little kirana shop which caters to the local neighborhood, and you say, "My God, I'm going to create a huge kirana shop." No way it's going to happen, because very simply, it's only people in the neighborhood will come to you. So the market is tiny. So dream big, but make sure your market size is large. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two, execution. What this guy did was he set up unit, one owned unit which was manufacturing these candies, right? Using that, he standardized the processes, and then he went and caught hold of lots of other farmers. You know why? He caught these farmers, they would grow the fruit, they would create the candies, but the branding, the quality control, the processes, the standardization, the distribution, the marketing was all taken care of by Godesi. Now, one very, very important thing I want to clarify here, this made the business very highly scalable. And if you want to grow big, if you want to be a leader of tomorrow, you have to have a scalable business for the very simple reason, if you don't, the other guy will scale faster than you and you're killed, right? So scalability means the ability of the business to grow big, and secondly, also it has to grow big fast, rapidly. Suppose he had said, "Look, I am going to create all these units and I am going to manufacture the candies myself." That's not a scalable business, because then he has to buy lots of land, he has to set up lots of little factories to produce the candies. That requires capital, that requires time, that requires land. Not scalable. Instead, what he did was he partnered with farmers, and he told the farmers, "Boss, you do it, you bring in the capital, I will give you the know-how, the quality control, the standards, I'll distribute and market for you." Right? So by farming out all this to partner farmers, this guy made his business extremely scalable. Okay, so that's number two, execution. Number three, and by the way, as you can see, when I talk about the dream founder, dream is an acronym which stands for these five: dream big, build the right team, execution, attitude, and make opportunities out of crisis. Okay, right team. He when you have partners, it is not enough for you to dream big. Even the partners have to dream big. Because had he got small partners who dreamt small, they said, "No, no, 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 we only want one little shed and that's enough for us." That will not help him. He needs partners who themselves want to grow. So, A, you got to get the right partners. B, once you got the right team, develop them, motivate them, nurture them. So, in this case, what's been happening is he, um, if you look at the conventional business of making candies or any kind of food processing, this is a food processing business. The conventional business is the farmer grows the fruit and then hands it over to a separate processing unit which does the processing. So if the end user, which is the consumer, if he pays 100 rupees, the farmer gets only 10% of that, which is 10 rupees, right? Here, he got the farmer himself to do the processing, and therefore the farmer started getting 30%, right? And the farmer's delighted. So, not only do you get the right team, you nurture them, you develop them, you motivate them so as to do a great job with you, right? And that's the issue of the right team. Next is, this whole business of, sorry, I missed out one. I missed out attitude. This guy, this founder, Vinay Kothari, when his business started for the first 1 year or so, he used to deliver these candies personally from the farmers, from their processing unit to the kirana shops. And you know why? Number one, he wanted to set an example. And it's very, very important. You have to set an example to the rest of your team. Nothing is below your dignity. Everything is your job. Secondly, he wanted to learn what was happening. He wanted to get feedback from these kirana shop owners, and therefore, ultimately, he would be able to train his people. So, one of the issues in attitude, there are many issues, but one of the key issues is make sure that you're willing to do everything. You can't say this is below my dignity. No, that will not work with a founder. Next, and probably the last one, is what I call make opportunities out of crisis. Now, obviously, you know what happened 2 years back, COVID crisis, and there was a complete lockdown in India. This guy realized competition, other people who were producing candies, making candies, the fruit was grown in one place and the processing was done far away, very often in a different state. And he realized that, at that time, interstate transport was banned. It was completely stopped. But within the state, it was possible. A. B. The advantage he had was he was operating in a completely rural environment, which COVID had not hit, not yet, right? So he said, my God, this is a great opportunity. I've got to grab market share. Question is how? So what he did was, he chased government officials. See, you had to get permission to open your unit, right? So he chased government officials, got permission, and so the factories were operational. Secondly, he realized during COVID, everybody was at home, everybody was, consuming content on the internet, and they were spending a lot of time on their laptops, on their phones. So he said, okay, I will give them content which builds my brand. And he started giving content about healthy food, yoga, natural living, etc., which continued to give to build his brand. As he built his brand and as he expanded his business, the entry barrier for his business improved. Entry barrier is what? Something in your business which prevents the other guy from entering, taking away your customers, and ultimately killing you. So he built his entry barrier, right? And which is why against execution, I have both scalability, which I talked about a couple of minutes back, and entry barrier. And the last point in the dream founder is make opportunities out of crisis, right? So that's the dream founder. And if you look at this guy, today he is the fastest selling confectionery brand on Amazon, right? And these are his products, Desi Pops, Desi Mints, Desi Meetha, etc. And he's growing. He's got 2 rounds of funding, right? So in a nutshell, if I were to summarize, if you want to be a leader of tomorrow, as a founder today, become a dream founder, follow some of these very simple principles, and hopefully you'll become tomorrow's leader. So that's it. Thanks. And I'll close with that.
Thank you so much, sir. My colleagues sitting here next to me have already ordered their copies from Amazon. Thank you for sharing the experts from the book for us and for the audience here. I've been getting some interesting sets of questions, but Like I said, I'm parking them for the end. I'll now move on to Professor Surya. Professor Surya Kumar is a professor in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at IIT Hyderabad. Beyond his focus on additive manufacturing, he shares a broad passion for manufacturing fabrication domain and is currently also the Dean for Innovation Translation and Startups at IIT Hyderabad. He is the recipient of Excellence in Teaching Award by the Institute of 2013 and has an Excellence in Research Awards for the year of 2020. Professor Kumar has over 12 years of experience to facilitate transforming ideas into successful commercial ventures. Professor Kumar, over to you.
Thank you. Let me just set up my screen. Okay. So I think I'll be sharing some thoughts here. I thought I just jotted down some thoughts and a typical disclaimer of a research habit. So I come from a manufacturing background. So I carry a bias towards tangible products. Of course, I'm also a adjunct faculty in a Department of Artificial Intelligence at our place, but I still my basic training has a bigger weight. And as I said, I'll be sharing some thoughts, and they're broad in sense. I mean, don't take them literally, only take them in the sense of the context. So I think, I mean, if I look at it, if you see essentially how the customer is changing. Okay, so I mean, because we are always interested as a startup in trying to understand what is a successful startup, and we are expected to understand the customer and the ecosystem. So today, I think, I mean, all of us know about the Ford days and the black color of the Fords, and today have so much of variety with us, where the customers are able to pick from a wide variety of customers. But I think what is going more and more in the future is customer becoming a participant and a partner in it. I think, even for example, let us say as simple as a ring or a laptop or your own bag or even a slipper. Okay, saying that, look, you have designed it, carries a lot more weight today than purely just buying it from 100 different options. And I think that is something we have to keep in mind when we are thinking about our users, etc. So usually I say there are three major factors or trends which you can see. One is the mass customization, where customers are more and more interested in customized products. You're no longer talking about standard products. You're talking about customized products for everyone. Two, there is also a digitization of the factory happening, whether you call it Industry 4.0, whether you call it sensors, Industry IoT. Okay, there are different ways, but the whole factory is going to be digitized. And three, the whole COVID and the background has also shaken our faith in the supply chains or their reliability to a certain extent. So you're no longer sure that, okay, I can get it in 1 month, shipped in a day, etc. So what are the, how can a startup or a founder think of technical ideas in this context? So mainly, I mean, if I look at essentially what is the USP of course, I'm being very India specific here, naturally. But if I look at it, what is the USP of India versus other economies? If you ask me, when it comes to mass production, I think, I mean, either countries like China or Korea are significantly have I mean, advantage of starting early. And we can't just compete that, like, I have a proven manufacturing also. On the other hand, it's also not possible or not even, I mean, I don't think even think it is necessary for us to say that our advantage is cheap labor. In fact, we should not as a nation think cheap labor is an advantage. Okay, so I mean, and there are companies like Vietnam or Philippines who are doing better in the other aspect. So if you look at it, neither are you in the mass production, nor are you a cheap factory. And that is where I think India's strength has to be, if you look at it, has been currently in the service industry, be it IT, be it pharma, etc. And you can also have a large base of engineers which are there. I think, I mean, India has the highest number of engineers from certification, etc. Okay. Can India take the lead in the next pharma factory where service and manufacturing are going to be intertwined, where manufacturing is no longer only mass production, but from a service also. There is a beautiful quotation from Mahatma Gandhi ji, from mass production to production by the masses. He meant it in the context of big factories versus village panchayats, etc. But I think it is also time for us to revisit the same in the startup context and think, can we move from mass production and centralized innovation to innovation by the masses and production by the masses? And I believe startups can and will play a significant role in doing it. And so what are the I mean, hardware or not, but I mean, essentially here I mean tangible startups. Okay. So when you think about, I'm talking IT as a proven thing of an Indian strength. Okay. I think, I mean, already India has a demonstrated ability and strength when it comes to artificial intelligence and IT, etc. But you see, such a matching up game has not been visible, and there is a lots and lots more potential when you talk about hardware startups or tangible startups. And what are the challenges? Why are they usually not so much in proportion as much as you have the potential for? One, of course, the exponential growth possibilities are not available. So you write a code, or I mean this thing. So the assumption is it scales up 100x, 1000x, etc. So in tangible products, that scaling is usually not possible. But more importantly, skilling and training is required. And I think you can watch, for example, good number of, there are beautiful YouTube apps, etc., for you to learn. But when you have to operate a machine, you can't do that on a YouTube. You have to go and you have to have good number of training institutes which will help you build a drone, will help you teach how to build a robot, etc. Okay. And three, you also need a comparatively higher investment. So, for example, if I talk about a medical robot, it does need a decent amount of investment. So, some thoughts about how you can, for example, think of it is, for example, it's not just a MSME, but even the digital tools are changing the assumption that exponential growth is not possible. Today, there is a serious and significant exponential growth possible if you have a digital solution for your factory. It can be replicated across various factories and it is significantly scalable both in profits and in market. Two, I think from the skill point of view, universities and incubators like us need to offer more and more skill development programs, etc. But more importantly, the entry barriers should be reduced. So, for example, today, many universities, including ours, you can start a startup being a student doing a BTech or undergraduate. Even you can even register a course and you can even get a degree in addition to being a startup. So let us say your startup is a successful or a failure, but there is also a additional degree you get, which kind of lowers the threshold or the risk factor. And three, for example, when you talk about the investments, can incubators and centers become also capable of limited volume production? So, for example, we have a maker lab in our incubator, and that maker lab is also certified. So, for example, our startups use that. So, we have a couple of startups who manufacture drones and sell them, and the whole production facility of our incubator is also certified. In fact, DGC is certified also that drones they're manufacturing. Okay. And where can these common clusters help startups overcome that investment and at least help in the limited volume stages? Okay, so these are some thoughts I thought kind of I will put across. As I said, I mean, I just wanted to give a more a different perspective on what are the sectors and how the sectors are moving. Okay, and I keep telling to the startups, bright idea is not adequate. I mean, unfortunately, but it is true. It's not that you suddenly sit in the veranda and you have one bright idea and uh, great. Okay, it does not happen like it. World is full of bright ideas. I think it is hard work which is necessary to convert that idea into a reality. Okay, so value addition is important. And the second, if you look at the trends, we're looking at more decentralized and participative production houses. In fact, the example Professor Dhruv gave is also such a good example where the whole candy is decentralized to a village level or a town level. Okay, and can such ideas either from a retail or from a factory, etc., take up? Okay, I think with that I'll stop and thank you for the opportunity.
Professor Surya, I'll send you some candies.
Thank you so much, Professor Surya. With that, you have also answered one of the questions that we got on our chat box, which was relating to the maker labs, incubation centers, and the programs that we are currently running on entrepreneurship. Professor Dhruv, if you would want to highlight any other such programs that the students have on entrepreneurship specifically, and your take on having a entrepreneurship specific curriculum, either in the bachelor's or in the masters, while management degrees do have programs on entrepreneurship, what about the other allied courses?
See, okay, I have one comment here. Firstly, I think given the fact that creating your own startups, entrepreneurship actually creates a huge amount of employment, because it is not only the founder and co-founder, but it's also 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 other people. It's a huge opportunity and it must be done. I have one suggestion. Yes, incubators are required, curriculum is required. I think the best people to involve in that curriculum are the alumni of that institute, who are already founders, who are already running successful startups for multiple reasons. First of all, these guys bring experience, right? Secondly, these guys, they have passed out of the same college or university, and therefore it is the brand of that college that they're trying to build up. And I have seen in my experience, all alumni, almost without exception, they're very, very keen to help juniors to come up to their kind of level, right? So, yes, entrepreneurship has to be done, but I would strongly suggest involve alumni in the process.
Well noted, sir. And we will try and curate something around that definitely, because it's a very often seen example, yet very less worked on example. Chris, we often see that the startups these days, specifically the young entrepreneurs, are running after the buzzword unicorn. What do you think is the right trajectory of taking that discourse? One. And the second question that we've got on our chat box is if you could give us some references to the startup networks in Canada.
Oh, okay. Great questions. Well, I would say, first of all, I definitely applaud the creation of unicorns and the celebrating of the number of unicorns within any nation, because it really does show that ability and drive to scale. So it's good and it's great for the economy overall. But I think that what we all have to be very, very present to as people working in the ecosystem and within, especially from the academic side, is that our economies are also fundamentally built on small to medium-sized businesses and businesses that do very specific purpose-driven things that are out there in the world. I'm not sure that hyper focusing everything on your only goal is to become a unicorn or die in the process is actually how we want to teach entrepreneurship. I think it's a path of entrepreneurship that we should have a lot of resources and capacity to teach around. But I think we should also teach around the fundamentals around creating all sorts of smaller businesses, and small doesn't have to mean it's like two people off the side of their desk. A small business that's not a unicorn in manufacturing could still be a $40 million company, right? We have a young group that came out of the school here that within 2 years of graduation have $50 million in sales in air filtration systems, but they're not going to be a unicorn. And no one's going to write them a big, giant $50 million check because they think they're going to have some $1 billion valuation. It's not going to happen. But it's an amazing business that's employing now 25 people that are there and has its own manufacturing facilities and is now expanding around the world. So I think we have to bring that kind of mentality, mindset, to have both being there. In terms of the resources that are available within Canada, one, I would say I've commented on the LinkedIn stream that's going on for this broadcast right now. So everyone should be able to find me based on my comment that's watching. Be happy to share some resources, but there's some great, programs for helping companies or students who want to come and expand into the country. And rather than me list them all out, because there's so many of them, anyone who messages me, I'll share a little collection for them after the broadcast. But Canada is very interested in being, and Toronto very specifically, where I live, is having a startup boom. We outperformed both New York City and Silicon Valley in job creation in the last major report that came out just in Toronto. So we're really interested in acquiring talent from around the world to work in those businesses, and also in people who want to start them and come to Toronto. You get a beautiful place that is different than an American environment, but you get 5-second access across the border to go sell to the Americans as well too. So anyone who wants to talk about that, please shoot me a note.
Surbi, can I just add to what Chris said? Yeah, on the subject of unicorns. So while it's a very good thing, the problem that most founders have, and I'm not addressing academicians here, I'm addressing founders. The problem that most founders have is they chase valuations. That's absolutely silly. Never, never, never do that. You chase valuations, you may not be building a business. What you have to chase is your business. Focus on the business, valuations will come. In any case, you look at the 100-odd unicorns that we have today. I think we have 108. Almost all of them are loss-making. And if you look across the world, once again, most unicorns are loss-making. That's silly. They are not real businesses. They are fictitious businesses, just as the animal unicorn was. So you've got to try and build a profitable, growing business. In the process, valuation will come. Don't chase valuation. Focus on your business. I think that's the one statement I want to leave with any founder out there.
Thank you so much, sir. Well noted. Thank you, Chris. Professor Surya, we are wanting to hear from you on the fact that what are the other stakeholders that can equip and enable student entrepreneurs to flourish, being from the academia and from the system itself. What do you think are the key focus stakeholders we should be focusing on, besides alumni that Professor Dhruv has highlighted?
Yes, I think before I answer that, there is a element of truth also in that academicians are not.
I think Professor Surya's network.
No, he didn't want to say the last bit.
I think we can't hear it.
I am back. Okay. No, I think so. What I was saying is usually, when you see student becoming an entrepreneur in a academic institution, the usual assumption is it's not probably the right place. Okay, and it has been true with a grain of salt in many situations. But I think there is a significant movement I see in the last 5-6 years where most universities are changing and upgrading to become and to facilitate students in becoming entrepreneurs. And the idea here is how can a student do what is his or her passion as an entrepreneur, and to do it with a recognition from the IIT or the university, etc. also. So, for example, I will tell you a example we are doing. So let us say if you are an undergrad in 4th year and you have a wonderful, beautiful idea, you want to start up, do a startup. You can convert into a dual degree. You can then start your startup. We allow you to incubate. We allow you to give some seed money. And become a CEO, etc. of it. Plus, at the end of the year, you also get EM Tech degree. And I think that is what universities should do is reduce the entry barriers, one, and two, make it easier and more learning opportunities, skill development opportunities for the students. I think that is an important role which we are expected to play, and I'm glad that many are doing it and the change is happening.
Thank you so much, Professor Surya. And with your technical inputs on the policy advisory committees for various policies, I'm hoping that this will be replicated across other institutions as well. With that, I would like to close on just one final thought, which is on funding your startup and other nightmares. Professor Professor Dhruv, if you could okay, I
Okay.
think we are getting the book.
Yes.
Yes. So if you could just tell us what is in the funding aspect. You've already told about the valuation aspect, but Professor Dhruv and Chris, both if you could mention us and walk us through the entire funding journey that you have seen across the startups, and also when is it the young entrepreneur should start thinking about that?
Okay. And you want both of us to do it within 4 minutes?
Yes, 2
What,
minutes.
60
straight.
seconds?
Look, asking a professor to talk for 2 minutes is asking for the moon. So, I mean, and both of us are professors. No. So let me just quickly. Can I take one little story? Maybe 3 minutes. Yeah, Surbi, is that okay? Okay. So I'll take one story from there, and this is about. It came in the year 2014. There were three very bright engineers, and I think this goes back to what Chris was saying. Three bright engineers, and they came to us at Lead Angels, and they wanted funding, and they said, "Look, we have a design for a waterless urinal." And we said, "Wow!" And you know why we said that? Because just 4 months before that, on the 15th of August, Independence Day, Prime Minister Modi had announced Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, right? We'll build lots and lots of toilets, crores of toilets. Brilliant idea, wonderful initiative. Unfortunately, there's no water. Many toilets will not have water, so there's no maintenance. Who's going to clean them? Can't be cleaned. So we were delighted with this. What we told these guys was, we said, look, we are very keen to invest. However, please remember there is no entry barrier in your business. Somebody else can also do something similar and then kill you. Therefore, you must go to market immediately. They said, yes, sir. He said, we will appoint distributors and we'll go to market right away. Wonderful. So we said, okay, we'll meet you in 1 month. In that period, we will just understand the business and then we will fund you. Within 1 month, these guys came back and they were grinning away. You know why? They said, we are now working on the design of a similar product for women. So a female version of the same thing. We said, hang on, boss. What happened to the male version? Sir, that is there. It is still there with us. We said, look, you were to appoint distributors fast. Sir, just give us 4 or 5 months. In those 4 or 5 months, we will develop both products and then we will go to distributors with a bang. You know what we did? And I have to take off my specs for this. What our reaction was, all of us investors. This. You know why? And I go back to what Chris was saying. You can be a brilliant techie. These were three very bright engineers, but they had converted this into an R&D project. And they were going gaga over the fact that it's a project, it's a product, I'll get a better product. No, they didn't understand business. So we told them very clearly, you have no entry barrier and you don't understand business. If you can get in a co-founder who understands business, jointly with you three techies, we'll invest in you. Otherwise, we are not. So, I just want to leave this message. Investors want to invest in good founders who can run businesses. I think that's the biggest issue. Founders who understand business, who understand this concept of sales, who understand scalability, who understand entry barrier, not founders who are only focused on creating a better and better engineering marvel. I think I'll just leave it at that.
That was great, Professor Nath. So I'm gonna just build on that and say that the thing that you need to do in order to make sure you get to that point is, one, be very open-minded and be ready to listen. Listen deeply to what the mentors, to what the advisors are saying to you. Now, you're going to hear from a lot of them, and some of them may say the opposite of what each other are saying. So you have to still make your own decision, and you have to call your own play, call your own path. But you do have to be open and listening and ready. And if you have those kinds of conversations with mentors and advisors and potential customers, and you do that really well before you start the investment tour, then you're going to know ahead of time what the investors are going to say, and you're going to have really good answers, and you're already going to be a bit down the path. Too many people jump from, I did my plan, okay, put me in front of investors, I'm ready to go. But they haven't done that prep piece. That doesn't have to take forever. It could be 45 days, right? Just to make sure you really get. And so like at the school, for example, here's an idea for the other institutions that are listening. We've designed a pitch team that is, to your point, Professor Nath, all alumni. And when a student or a recent grad has a deck that they're about to take to the market to get investment, my bench of alumni who are in the venture capital space will do a confidential private review and commentary on the deck. And then we'll put it to them, and then we'll work on it, me and the faculty as well too, and then go on the tour, right? But really, like, so how can you design in these kinds of rapid, quick opportunities to get that feedback? And as the student, don't rush out. You know, you got to go fast when the investors, like, you know, Professor Nath said, when you go, you got to go. But what can you do to make sure that you really, you know, have perspective before you show up in the investor room? Because often they're going to turn you back around in the other direction and say, get back in there and like figure out these next 23 things. If they say figure out these next 2 things, great. If they're like figure out these next 23, you're in trouble. So you got to do that pre-work before you get to them.
Yeah, I will just jump in with one thing. So I think CEO, CTO, and CFO, all the 3 should be in any company, or at least one person into all the 3 roles. And if you miss anyone, your startup is not going to succeed. You need technique, you need finance, and I think you need executivism. Okay, so I think I would put it that way. Yes, you can't sacrifice any of the 3.
Thank you so much for leaving us with all the 3 food for thoughts. It has been a beautiful journey to our Startup Innovation Week. And with that, we end our webinar on Founders of Today and Leaders of Tomorrow. Thank you so much, one and all, for joining us today and making this a success. Have a great evening.
Great. Well, bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.